It's inevitable, but occasionally lines will get crossed and what happens in real life isn't reflected in QuickBooks. There's always a few different ways that you can fix every problem, but they all involve making sure that all of the QuickBooks puzzle pieces correctly line up and are accounted for. I'm going to open up an invoice of one of my good customers, Kobe Lucas. He paid his invoice and he sent me money. I can see that his balance due is 0. I processed his payment, and in fact, I've already deposited his check. You can even see that it's marked as being paid here. But at the last minute, he wanted one more product, and he gave me a second check for it. I deposited that check with the same group of undeposited funds that night. However, I had already recorded the deposit in QuickBooks before I made the real physical deposit. So that second check isn't accounted for in QuickBooks. Because of this, when I go reconcile my bank deposits, the amount totals are going to be mismatched. In QuickBooks, I would end up with 2 deposits that day, while my bank would only show one larger deposit. That is what we ultimately have to fix. There's several ways that we can fix this. The easiest way would be to create a separate sales receipt for Colby, indicating a cash sale. But for this second product, there's one more complication thrown in. Kobe has asked that the second product be added to this original invoice to make his bookkeeping a little bit easier. Since this all happened very recently, it's as easy as backtracking a few steps in the workflow process and correcting it. There's one thing we know we can't change, however, and that's the deposit total in the physical bank. So however we end up fixing this, it has to include a total of the right amount that matches the physical bank deposit. The first thing I'm going to do is edit this invoice. And I'll start by adding that second product that he wanted. It's going to apply the right amount of tax to it, and it shows me that there's already a payment applied, but there's a new balance due on this invoice. That balance is $28.06, and it matches that second check that Kobe sent me. I'll click Save and Close. It's telling me that there are existing payments applied to this invoice. I'm going to click Yes, I want to change it anyway. What I need to do next is apply that second check that I received from Kobe and put it into QuickBooks. I'll click Receive Payments. The payment was from Kobe. Here's his invoice, and I can see the amount due is for $28.06. I'll place a check mark here. And we're used to this automatically calculate payment screen by now, so I'm going to place a check mark next to Do Not Display This Again. I'll click Yes. And once again, the amount due is $28.06. That's the cost plus tax of that second product that we added. If it was a check, I could apply the check number if I want. If I don't remember what that was, because this was a check that I've already deposited, remember, I can either call him or just ignore the check number field. I'll click Save and Close. Now, I've updated the invoice, I edited it to add that second product, and I've told QuickBooks that I've received a payment from Kobe. The third step is to go back into that invoice and take a look at it so we can send a receipt to Kobe. From here, it showed as being paid, a 0 balance due, and all the items are here. So from here, I can either print it or email it to him from the top of the screen. But either way, it will get to Kobe and everything will look correct on his end. I'm going to close out of this now because everything that involves Kobe is done. The last thing we need to do is fix that deposit. I'm going to go into Record Deposits. Here's the check from Kobe for $28.06. QuickBooks knows that I need to mark this as a deposit in some way, but I'm not going to select it and click OK like we usually do. If I click OK, QuickBooks is going to mark it as a single deposit of $28.06, and that's exactly what I'm trying to fix and what I'm trying to avoid. So I'll click Cancel on this screen. It's going to bring up the regular Make Deposits dialog box. From here, I can do what I do on the invoice screen. I'll click the Previous button. It's going to bring up my last deposit. Because this deposit happened recently, it is as easy as clicking Previous on the recent few transactions to find that group of checks that I want to add the payment to. Here's the deposit that I made, and here's the first check that I received from Kobe, and here is where I'm going to add the second check. I'll click Payments from the top of the screen. Here's that additional payment that we saw on the first screen. This time, I will place a check mark next to it and click OK. It's going to get added to this particular deposit group. I'll click Save and Close. It's asking me if I want to change the transaction. I'll say yes. Now, my check has been added to that deposit subtotal, bringing up the total to the correct amount that I deposited into the physical bank. Now, everything's tidy, everything's accounted for and fixed. As these things happened recently, we were able to just go in and click a few previous buttons to open up the correct transactions. But if this happened a while ago, it's not very effective to keep clicking previous until you just happen to find it. The easiest way to fix this scenario that goes back much further in time is to go directly into the check register. You can find that in the banking section under Check Register. I can see here on the left the date of everything that's happened. I can scroll up and down to find what I'm looking for. I can see all of my deposits. That's what DEP stands for. I can scroll to find whatever date I'm trying to fix, or at least find a date that's close to it. And then I can double-click on that deposit. It's going to bring me into whatever deposit group I just clicked on and that transaction. I can click Payments from here and bring up the actual deposit slip and repeat the entire transaction. I'll click X to close out of this, and X to close out of the check register. There's always a way to fix every scenario, even if it didn't happen recently. It's just a matter of knowing which puzzle pieces you need to fix and making sure you have everything accounted for in QuickBooks.